I'm Candace Bohannon, and we are here in New York City at the AWS Women of the Cloud event. We are here connecting with community, talking with allies and other people across the tech sector, and just kind of talking about how we can continue to bridge that gender gap in technology and how we can solve business problems in a more inclusive way. So I'm part of the She Builds Tech Skills core team, and our mission also really aligns well with this event. So I'm really excited to be here, and along with my co-host, MJ. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Candice. I'm MJ Zulueta, Customer Solutions Manager here in AWS. And we have here our fellow Amazonian. We're excited to talk to David Cristini and Veronica McCarthy. Veronica, David, would you like to introduce yourself, what you do in AWS, and what inspired you to be in this event?
Absolutely, yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Veronica McCarthy. I'm a sales leader based in Boston. I've been at AWS. I'm a boomerang Amazonian, so I was here and then I left, so maybe total 5-ish years. Been hanging around the place. Really enjoyed it. I lead a team of amazing sales professionals that work with software companies to help them build and sell their software on AWS. I'm lucky to be here with my friend Dave, who I work for. I also have a couple of part-time jobs. I'm one of the co-founders of Women of the Cloud, which is the event where we are today, which I'm really excited to be. And also, Dave and I were co-founders for the East IDE community, which we'll talk a little bit more about today. So.
All right, thanks, Veronica. Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Cristini. As Veronica mentioned, I work in our ISV group within the East Coast. So we are focused on our customer segment for software companies. I personally have been here for 10 years. I think one of the questions you asked were, why are you here today? And why? And I think one of the things that I really love to be able to do is act in the role of a sponsor for our ID&E community in the East. It's been such a rewarding experience for me over the last 3 years, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about how that group came together. But it's just always an opportunity to listen and learn and experience other people's perspectives when we have these types of events. So honored to be here.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for, helping to organize the whole event. That's kind of a big deal. And also thanks for creating that community on the East Coast. I think that's where we should start. Why don't you tell us a bit about how you created it, what you kind of built it on? I heard it might have something to do with our Amazon leadership principles, which I love, a big reason that I work here. So yeah, just tell us how this came about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start the story and then fill in the gap. So I rejoined Amazon in May of 2020. And I remember that summer, we were all still in lockdown. We were all very isolated. There were a lot of people joining the company at the time, which was fantastic. And we were all very isolated, and we had a lot of social unrest going on in our communities all around us. And I think as a team, we had affinity groups within our organization at Amazon, Women Ad or Asians Ad, or different types of groups that if you identified, you could join. But we really didn't have a safe place for us to come together and feel as a community of all different types to say, we don't love what's going on in the world. We don't like the social unrest. We want to do something. We want to learn. We want to share. We want to get comfort and community. So with our leadership principles, we took the ownership and we said, let's create something. And Dave, finish the story.
Well, and I think one of the things to add on to what Veronica was sharing is we saw our team specifically. We knew it was bigger than our team, who were really struggling with how to talk about some of these things at work, and what a safe space felt like. And I think one of the things, along with the ownership, we tried to do some invent and simplify for how do we create a space where people can feel authentic and feel safe about asking questions, about learning more, about sharing more about themselves. And so we built this community, and it organically grew through a lot of the different events that we ran as a team. I think some of the first things out of the gate were around the job fair.
Yeah, we really morphed it to what the needs of the business were at the time. And so we started with the humble job fair, because at the time we were really struggling to get diverse talent into our pipelines to hire. And so we started with the virtual job fair, and we went out and we sought diverse candidates to bring them to the job fair, and we prioritized the job fair just around diversity.
And it was really hard because it was
really
COVID,
hard. Yeah,
right?
it was virtual.
It was virtual, and like web platforms weren't
Yeah.
working, and we just kind of put it
Figured it
together,
out.
and
Yeah.
people came,
Yes.
which was the best part of it.
Yes. And so we had some amazing diversity hires come out of that job fair, and it was probably one of the most successful that recruiting had ever partnered with the field on. So really excited from that. And then we've really morphed. So as the business needs have changed and the community needs have changed, we have over 800 members now. We do internal coffee chats, things where we'll have a topic and we'll bring in an expert and we'll talk about that topic. I remember the first Juneteenth that we celebrated. I didn't really know what Juneteenth was. And what do you say to someone that celebrates Juneteenth? Like, happy Juneteenth Day. Like, what do you say? Do we make shirts? So we had a coffee chat with somebody from our Black Employees Network, and she explained what the history was and what do you do and how do you celebrate it? What foods do you eat? I learned a ton, and I was moderating, so I was really interested in it. So little things like that we've done over the years, which has been incredible. As we've continued to morph, our current focus is both internal and external. So Women of the Cloud is part of this, which is our external. We're working with our customers and our partners to bring them together to celebrate women in technology and allies who support women in technology. So this is an offshoot from the community.
And there's been a lot of other great work. If we think about it, we have some of the EBC work that's been developed.
Right.
So we have also the different coffee chats. I think I spoke at one around families at Amazon, like engaging the different employee resource groups to also come and speak at some of the coffee chats.
They've had 4 children in 5 years. So let's just pause and recognize.
I had a partner in that. So.
Yeah, he wasn't solely responsible. But that's a big deal to be an executive working at Amazon and having 4 young children in 5 years.
Well, it was interesting because some of the questions that came up, were how do I balance it all? And one of the things that I was able to offer was perspective and said, take the day, go to the where you need to read to your child at kindergarten. Amazon will be here when you get back, because I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure on people to do both. And absolutely. I don't think you have to. No, I think you can. It's an and, not an or.
Yes, so. It's like an integration of work and life.
Yeah.
Got it. Absolutely. Now talking about allyship. Yeah. So this question is for you, David.
Okay.
So as a male ally, and I know there are a lot of male there who wants to start being an ally for women in technology, what would be your advice?
I think there's so much to do. And if I had to say where to start, it's by being a good listener and understanding some perspectives of what it is like to be a female in technology, and how we can best support and be an ally for women who work in our group. I think it's also, as an ally, you can make sure that you're working hard to make sure that there is diversity and representation across anything from your team and the way that you're looking at candidates and making sure that you have diverse candidates who are being considered, but also your interview loops. In meetings, I think it's also really important for male allies to think about who's not speaking right now. And how do I include them? And how do I give them that space? And being intentional about that is really important. And then all the way up to leaders, one of the things that I make sure, especially as I evaluate my team, and even as specific as compensation, is making sure that there is equality in the pay scale for our genders who are represented. And I think that's always something that we need to audit and look at and make sure that we're doing the right thing for our employees. So.
Absolutely. Now talking about diverse team. So how can an organization with a very diverse team can support equity and inclusion with the use of psychological safety as a foundation?
Right. Yeah. Do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that really makes any team work is one, having the diversity of the team. It's actually been studied that if you don't have at least 25% diversity on a team, you're not going to make a good decision. So that may be 1 or 2 people of a minority representation on a team to make a better decision. To make a good decision, no matter who you are, you've got to have the psychological safety. And that's the ability to fail, the ability to succeed, and to celebrate both, right? So celebrate those failures. Oh yeah, oops, we figured that out. Let's not do that again. How do we go faster to make it better, right? And Dave's been really helppful in developing that in our leadership team and modeling it for all of the leaders within the organization. Because as you scale, you can't do everything in a small team. It gets bigger than 2 pizzas. There's many 2 pizza teams. And so you need to scale your leaders as well. Psychological safety and mirroring that and demonstrating that is a really powerful tool for us, at least. I would say, just to add to Dave's point that he mentioned earlier in terms of bringing equity into the team, and one thing we do at Amazon, which is very unique, is we have something called a bar raiser. So in our interview loops, we have people like Dave and I that are bar raisers, and we're looking for consistency around culture. We're generally not part of the same business that the business is hiring for, but we're trying to build both cultural and the ability to make sure that there's no bias within the interview loops. As a bar raiser, as a female bar raiser, I often see things like women candidates may come through and there may be folks on the loop that'll say, oh, I don't know if she's really that level. She might be a lower level. And oftentimes I'll pick that apart because we need data to be able to understand that statement. So tell me more. Is it a skills gap? Is it a culture fit? Like where is the gap and where are we seeing the leveling? Dave's been a great model for that and teaching bar raisers on how to do that. So it's something that's very Amazonian that helps us bring that equity.
And I'll just add a few things onto that, because I think what Veronica brought up around a team level is really important. And one of the things that I try and do and have my leaders model, and Veronica is also excellent at this, is introducing vulnerability and being vulnerable as a leader. That's also important for male allies, because one of the things that happens when you introduce that, people feel more comfortable in introducing their own ideas. We get to those better decisions. I think one of the biggest things that I try to do is eliminate a perceived need for imposter syndrome. Like if we can create a safe space, nobody has to feel like an imposter, and then we can actually have the best output and the best decision for our customers, for our company, and for our team. So
I really love this. We could spend like another hour together, but we probably shouldn't do that. I love that you're leading by example in such strong ways. Like you're setting up these communities, both internal to Amazon and this big event. I love that. I love the way that you were leading and showing support as a sponsor and ally. I think all of these things are really important and really great. If you could just give one little tip to other organizations who are trying to do this sort of thing, like what is the tip that you would give as you are leading by example? What would you tell someone?
I would say if you're starting a diversity initiative or working on inclusion, your target market is not the diverse people. It's not, we only build a women's group or we only build a group for Asian employees. The target market really is everyone. And it's everyone from the top to the bottom. And unless people are participating in that group, celebrating diversity and inclusion, you're never really going to get buy-in at an organization or scale level. So that would be my one piece of advice. Include everyone, no matter who they are.
My piece would just be about reducing your fear, your own fear and your own hesitation, because without, in my example, male allyship, it doesn't work. We absolutely are part of how we can start to solve and make sure that we are inclusive and have a better environment for all of our employees. And a lot of times there's fear associated with that. And I think that's one of the biggest blockers for people to get involved. So if you can put that aside and just take that one small step, you'd be surprised at what happens.
Yes,
So.
that's great.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
Well, I think that is about all the time that we have time for today. I really want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to stop by and chat with us and to give this great advice to people who may be watching. So thanks so much.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
This has been great.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So that was our live show from New York, and now we're all back home. I am Candace Bohannon. I am a solutions architect based in Minneapolis, and we're here to do a little recap of our session there that we had in New York, and we are so lucky to have Veronica come back and chat a little bit more with us. As we kind of kick things off, MJ, why don't you give us just a little bit of a reminder of who you are and what we're doing here? Oh, and you're muted.
You gotta love live shows, right? Yes, again, I'm MJ Zulueta, Customer Solutions Manager and Leader here in AWS. I know Veronica David could not join us today, but he promised he will be on our show in the future, so we will count on that. But again, thank you for joining us back today, Veronica. We're super excited to have you, and thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Happy to be here.
And just so you all know, Dave's out delivering a bunch of kids to school. So that's why he's unfortunately not able to be here, but always an advocate for helping families and being in charge of that and taking the time you need, as he said in that interview, which is so important.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the start of the school year now, so in most of the states. So yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people stepping out of meetings like, oh, the bus is coming and that sort of thing. Glad to see Dave and not surprised that he's doing that as well.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. So, Veronica, I really loved our session. I thought it was really great. I thought the Women of the Cloud event was really great. Thank you so much for your leadership on that. Like, that is just amazing. What I want to kind of talk a little bit more about, probably one of my favorite topics that we touched on while we were there, was just kind of related to imposter syndrome and psychological safety. I have said it before on this show, and I hear people say it a lot. I have that imposter syndrome, like she's strong in my head. And I really like your thread about psychological safety and how we need to create that to just build that more inclusive environment. So can you just talk a little bit more about whichever one of those topics you want to talk about? I feel like they go hand in hand, but let's just talk a little bit about that and how, making a more safe place helps people deal with imposter syndrome and lead to better overall group performance.
Yeah, no, totally. And I remember earlier in my career, as I was coming up, I had a lot of imposter syndrome, and I would go into meetings and I would think everyone else knew more than me, or everyone else knew the answer and I didn't. And I was quiet. And I remember getting that feedback earlier in my career. Wow, you're really quiet. Like when you speak up at the end and you have the right answer. Why didn't you say that 30 minutes ago? We would have saved all this time. And I started reflecting and I was like, yeah, maybe I do have more value than what I'm exposing, right? So, but that took years and it took a ton of practice. So my advice for those who may feel that way, where they're in the room and they're like, ooh, everybody's, been doing this longer than me. They know the answer. Don't be afraid to share an answer or a thought or an idea, and do it in a way that opens it up for others to give feedback or to redirect, right? Because it might not be the right answer. And if you don't try, you don't know. But let's say you take the risk and you share something and you share it under the context of, hey, I had this idea, or what do you think about this? Or what if we built upon what you were saying and did this? And bringing the team or the group together into some kind of consolidation is really, really helpful and creates that safe place. Now, fast forward, I'm now a leader and I still make mistakes, right? I may say something at a meeting and I may say it really strong, like I think, I feel, and it could be wrong, right? And I want people in my teams to challenge me because that's how we make better decisions. And so we always sometimes will say things, strong opinions loosely held, right? Like, here's my strong opinion, but it's loosely held, prove me wrong, right? And so then you have a discussion. And I think that's an important working group that you should set up with any kind of team meeting or any kind of ideation or build, because that's going to allow growth. And then just to build on that, when you screw up, share with others, right? Don't hide it and be afraid of it. Like, I screwed up big time in the beginning of this year and I shared it on our leadership team call. And not only did it create, equality and safety, like everybody else was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she shared that. Like, I feel normal now because she's not super and she's like us, and so like we all kind of came together. But also it prevented my peers and my teammates from doing the same thing, right? Like, I was like, look, I messed up. Here's what I did. Don't do this, guys. And they were all like, great. So glad you shared. So it creates even more of a bond. And then they feel safer to open up and share, ooh, I screwed up over here. Don't, look out for this thing. So anyway, so that's just a couple thoughts and tips I would do from both peers and leadership.
Yeah, I like that a lot. We're all humans. Stuff happens. So that's
Totally.
super helpful. And the strong opinions loosely held, like, you're going to be proven wrong, right? So that's something that I've heard said quite a few times, actually. I like that one.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I love that. Sometimes in the meetings, I'm like, oh, I should have said that. That was my idea. It's in here. I didn't share it.
Yeah.
So, yep, that's a good reminder. Thank you, Veronica. Now, Veronica, we heard from David about male allyship and how to start to become one and how to be involved. I want to get your own perspective on what do you think we should expect from our male ally. How can they be more, more intentional when they call themselves male ally?
Totally. So I always use this analogy to help males understand what it means, because oftentimes males will say, oh, I'm an ally, I help support so-and-so's promo or something. And it's like, okay, maybe. But what the most important skill of an ally is I always take it to the home life, right? Like when my husband empties the dishwasher without me asking, that's an ally, right? I don't want to ask you. I don't want to remind you that I'm a woman. I don't want to have to tell you I need a promo. I want you just to do it because it's the right thing for me and my career, and I'm ready, not because I'm a woman and I asked you, right? So being an ally is being intentional when that woman's not in the room or not even asking, because that's true allyship. So for folks, I always just remind them of the dishwasher scenario, because everybody's come across a scenario like that at some point in their lives, like where they take the trash out, like they do it without being asked, and that's true allyship.
I love it. I wish my boyfriend is hearing this right now. Um, and I like what David also said when he said, like, women are so tired with mentorship. We want sponsorship. We want someone to support us in our career progression. So I love that, and that's something that stick to me.
Totally.
Well,
And
yeah.
I would also add to the sponsorship and the mentorship thing. Folks oftentimes think, oh, she's a woman, so we have to get her a woman mentor, a woman sponsor. No, I don't think so. I think it's almost better, cross-generational, cross-gender. That's all okay, and that should be encouraged because that creates that better integration and inclusivity. So I don't think it's a woman to a woman mentor, a woman sponsor.
Absolutely. We need also diverse mentors and sponsorship, right? So talking about diversity and inclusion. Well, this has been great conversation, Veronica. I hope we have more time, but thank you so much again for your time. I'm certain that our audience has gained a lot of wealth from this conversation. And for our audience, hope you all enjoyed our episode today. Stay tuned for more episodes and follow us at She Builds YouTube channel. Until then, take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.